We have big news out of Philadelphia to discuss today. Chuck Fletcher, the general manager, has been relieved of his duties. We're going to discuss what the future holds for the team because it sounds like a whole lot more changes are coming as well, coming up next. So welcome back to another video here, Top Shelf Hockey. We're now back off the cruise ship. As you can see, we're back on the U.S. mainland, working our way towards home. But for now, we get some big news in Philadelphia to discuss. The Flyers announced a few hours ago that GM Chuck Fletcher is relieved of his duties. He was also president of hockey operations, so president and GM no more for Fletcher. Basically, this is weird timing if you think about it, because the trade deadline just passed. It sounds like the wording from Dave Scott, part of the ownership group, who made the announcement, is it kind of sounds to me like they're going to embrace a rebuild. It does sound that way, and it also sounds like they're listening to fan reaction of the trade deadline activity, or you could say lack thereof, and they're moving now instead of the end of the year. It sounded like they had already kind of decided earlier to do this at the end of the season, and they decided to do this early. Now, Daniel Briere is taking over as interim general manager. Of course, he's been with the Flyers for a little while already as an assistant. Many thought he was the heir apparent to Fletcher whenever this time would come. Fletcher's been there for 4 seasons, not much success, so it's not overly shocking to me that this is happening. To me, this is long overdue. The management team there has done a really poor job. This has been one of the worst run franchises for some time. So, a very historical franchise that has a lot of greatness to it in its past, but in recent years, it's been run terribly, in my opinion. And it's going to need drastic changes to get better. We'll see what they decide to do here. But Briere was kind of long recognized as an up-and-coming potential future NHL general manager, longtime NHL player. Of course, has connections to the Flyers from his playing days. I believe he was brought in to make sure that they had him lined up for future so that another organization didn't offer him a higher ranking job that he would decide to depart for. So he's the interim GM, but the memo that the Flyers have put out here to make this announcement confirms that they're looking for a new president of hockey ops and a new general manager. Now, Briere is expected by many to be the leading contender to land a full-time role. I, at this point, would be surprised if he's not given that chance, considering how they've groomed him. It's also well known that the Flyers tend to rely heavily on former alumni. That's what they do. Like, former players tend to be GMs there. I don't know what it is. It just seems to be a trend. And, obviously he fits that mold as well, but not to say that that's the only reason he's going to get a chance here. But it sounds like there could even be a change coming at the ownership level. Dave Scott, whether it's a retirement or just a change. It sounds like there's some potential there too, but we don't know a lot for certain. A lot of things have led to this, and not only the lack of success, but like I said, the fact of how the deadline was handled. A lot of people are upset with the lack of activity. The fans have been moaning and groaning for change since then, which I think the ownership had already seen. There was some that thought, Elliotte Friedman made mention of this in his comments today, saying that ever since the fiasco with Pride Night, where Provorov refused to wear the Pride warm-up jerseys, it sounds like the ownership didn't know that was going to happen until it was actually happening. Nobody could inform them, and like Friedman said, you don't want to put surprises like that on your bosses because that was not very well received. I know there's some that have come out in support of Provorov, and that's fine. You can take your opinion. That's not what we're here to discuss today. Whether or not you support Provorov or you thought it was wrong, it doesn't matter. The fact is that the team was expected to wear the Pride jerseys, and obviously, we've seen a player buck the trend, and it didn't go over well with ownership that they didn't know. Like, they don't like surprises like that. That's going to have, any kind of PR repercussions. So that's understandable, makes sense from that perspective. That probably didn't go over well. Now, I'm not sure we can put that all on Chuck Fletcher, but still it is what it is. Now, there's also been a memo that's gone out to season ticket holders, and it's signed by John Tortorella, who's the head coach. Now, a lot of times when you see a change in head coach or a GM, the head coach is oftentimes in jeopardy because most GMs like to have their own coaching staff, their own people that they brought in and hired that they feel are best fit. They usually want to change the direction of the team a bit, and that is a case where I don't think it's going to be this time. I think Tortorella is very safe and secure. I think that everybody there's agreed that what he's done so far has been good. I think the fans even seem to have support him as well, which is which is good for him. And it's certainly going to be interesting to see what the next GM, if it is Briere, obviously he would likely already know Tortorella. That would be a little bit of an easier transition in my opinion. But like I said, they're looking for a new president of hockey ops as well. Some rumblings about it could be, maybe keep an eye on some other former Flyer alumni, since that seems to be a trend there. Whether it be a guy like an Eric Lindros or Dave Poulin, who has previous NHL experience. I don't know if any of them have an interest in that kind of thing, but wouldn't be shocking if somebody of that nature became involved. Even Ray Shiro, of course, who isn't connected to the Flyers as a player, but his father was obviously Fred Shiro, who worked with the Flyers for a long time as well. And Shiro has previous NHL GM experience. He's 60 now. He's been around the league a long time. Could be a good candidate for a president of hockey ops job of that nature. So wouldn't be complete shock if even somebody like him was brought in. But we'll have to wait for end of the season into the off season to get more change. But it does sound like this is just the tip of the iceberg, just the beginning. Where there's going to be more changes within management. We could see more changes within the assistant GMs, even like the pro scout, amateur scout. It's hard to say, but there's more change coming. This team has been underwhelming for some time. During Fletcher's tenure, he technically had 5 coaches. I don't know if it's fair to say that he had 5 because he came in near the end of the Dave Haxtell era. He was there just over 4 years. Fired Haxtell a couple weeks into his tenure. Scott Gordon took over as an interim. And then his main hire after that was Alain Vigneault. That worked out only for, I think it was about 2.5 years or a little bit better. And then Vigneault was let go. And then Mike Yeo took over on an interim basis. And now he's got Tortorella. So, that's a lot of coaches, but really 2 main hires, really 5 altogether. You can't really count Hextall. Sorry, I don't think that's really fair because he inherited him and fired him shortly after. The other thing is they had a town hall meeting recently. That didn't go over well. Talking about trades, he even mentioned that they have like an app that they put the trade details into to see if it's going to be like a good idea or not. I don't know. I understand a lot of people come out and say Chuck Fletcher's a real good man, and you know what? I don't know him personally. Maybe he's an excellent person. It doesn't mean he's great at his job. And to me, this guy's gotten by as an NHL executive for far too long because of his name. Obviously, he comes from a family of hockey executives, obviously with his father, Cliff, being a long-time NHL executive. And, he had the job in Minnesota for a long time. He led them to a big chunk of mediocrity. Then he goes to the job in Philly, and that team got even worse. To me, it's just it's a bad run, bad tenure. Maybe he's better suited for another role within hockey management. I just don't see him being an NHL GM. It's been an absolute joke the way this team has been run. The other thing, too, is I think it needs to change if they're really going to embrace a rebuild and they're really going to embrace doing things differently in Philly. I think they have basically a group of what they call a shadow GM, which is basically former alumni that's worked with the team. Some of them have which been former GMs themselves and still working on advisory type of roles, whether it be Bobby Clark or Paul Holmgren. That all needs to go. Their way of doing things no longer works, and it's drugged this franchise into the gutter here. And to me, that they need a significant overhaul of change. So we'll see if they actually do. This could have waited. I think it's just really a matter of letting Fletcher go now. Gives him a chance to maybe have a little more time to find his next role. Gives him a little bit of time to let Briere maybe run things a little bit just to get a better evaluation before they make a firm decision. And kind of see if they can recoup some season ticket holders and make the fan base a little bit happier in that sense. But really, you just let this guy run the trade deadline. Trade deadline for a lot of teams, whether you're buying to go into the playoffs or you're selling to try to get better for the future, is a pivotal moment in your franchise's season and possibly for your future if it's done right or if you really mess it up. Why would you let somebody run that if you're really seriously consider letting them go? That makes no sense to me, and it makes me wonder if the fan base wouldn't have reacted the way they did to the deadline and the lack of activity and the lack of moves if this really would have happened. It's kind of sad, the state of the Flyers right now. Hopefully they're bound to get a fairly high pick. Hopefully they put it to good use and can get things turned around. I do think Flyers fans have a right to be confident in Daniel Briere. We have no reason not to be right now. And we'll see what else they do and who else comes in to help, because this team greatly needs it. So let me know your thoughts on the news out of Philly today. We'll discuss down in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news and rumors from all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.